Und der Haifisch, der hat Zähne und die trägt er im Gesicht. Und McKees, der
John!
hat ein Messer, doch das Messer sieht man nicht.
Hey everybody, it's Comedy on Vinyl. This week we are doing an Ernie Kovacs album entitled The Ernie Kovacs Album, which to the best of my knowledge is the only one, unless this is a compilation. We're not sure if it's a re-release. We didn't do that part of the research. I didn't.
I'm pretty sure, I've looked it up before, and I'm pretty sure it's just a compilation that they took from the USC archives.
Okay.
And a lot of it's the actual TV. It's the audio recordings of some of the TV performances.
Right, which is what makes this one a little weird. The other voice you're hearing right now, by the way, is Adam X. Storm.
Hi.
And Adam produced my audiobook. He's a musician. He's a painter artist. Kind of? No, you're a musician. You count. What do I call you? He's an attorney. He's, what else do you do?
I don't know, just Renaissance man.
He's a Renaissance man. That is what Adam Storm
is.
But the reason he's here is because he's the person who introduced me to Ernie Kovacs, despite the fact that I should have seen him years ago. Honestly, they should be doing classes on Ernie Kovacs in film school. Like, like, if I wish they'd have given me an Ernie Kovacs class in film school.
Yeah, definitely. Especially TV.
Exactly.
Especially TV production.
Yeah.
Because, like, what he... like what he did in TV was like so revolutionary at the time. Even though we're talking about vinyl audio,
that doesn't matter. We use these as excuses to talk to others.
Because he worked in radio for, actually worked in radio stations in Trenton, Philadelphia, and New York, for I'm close. I think like 10 years, give or take a couple years.
Yeah. Before
he switched to TV. Mm-hmm. And actually, the gig that he got, his first TV gig, was a cooking show in Philadelphia, and what the hell was the name of it? Deadline for Dinner. And it actually ran for I think like 3 or 4 years. It was on twice a week in Philadelphia. It was a half an hour. And the story was he had been working. Well, I guess should we just do a quick bio on Ernie?
Yeah, go ahead.
Kovacs? Okay.
Yeah, do it. Adam knows absolutely everything about Ernie Kovacs.
Born in Trenton, New Jersey, which is where I was born. At one time. I'm not exactly sure if it was one of his best friends that he was working with at the Trenton radio station that he wrote with, or if he himself took a room at the house that would become my grandmother's house that I grew up in, partially. So that's why we actually have these giant vinyl, well, they're not even vinyl, I don't know, they're the heavy slate masters from the radio station. Because the radio station that he worked at was right down the street.
Yeah.
So we think that he had a room there. And we actually have these giant slate masters from the radio station from like the 30s.
Holy shit.
They were left in the attic. So we're not sure if he was there or I think the engineer actually lived in the house.
Yeah.
And Ernie Kovacs stayed at the house while he was working there.
Right. Can you listen to them? Wait, can you play them?
No, because they're big and you need a special player. My uncle looked into it a couple years ago.
We need to find that out, man.
I know. Oh no, I have them and I took them out so they're all like covered and wrapped in plastic and sealed so nothing can happen to them.
Right.
But we don't know what the hell to do with them. But at some point I'll do something with them. But they're in Trenton, New Jersey, so I can't. So, but anyway, he grew up, born, raised Trenton, graduate of Trenton High, mediocre high school student. Graduates in 5 years, actually. He had to repeat his senior year because he was not in class so much. He gets into theater with this guy, I forget his name, like some kind of like German name, like Van Aff, whatever. But his theater teacher, who I've actually heard, they renamed in Trenton the actual theater complex in Trenton, New Jersey, is named after this instructor, this teacher, who did summer stock in Long Island and was tied in with the stage in Manhattan. And this is all like in the 30s, right? So Ernie starts getting really into theater. He starts doing summer stock. He comes back to Trenton. He's working. He's supporting his mom. He's working at a cigar shop. He's a big cigar smoker. Like he always had a cigar. They say he smoked close to 20 cigars a day.
Jesus
on average.
Christ.
Yeah. It costs him. They figure like either anywhere from $13,000 to $15,000 in 1950s dollars a year in cigars, right?
Oh my God.
Guy was constantly smoking and
like,
drinking.
What is that, 80, 100,000 now? 80 maybe? 70, 80?
Yeah, God knows. It'd probably be the equivalent of like, $60,000, $80,000 at least.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I mean, he'd smoke $2 cigars and smoke 20 of them a day. It's insane. They were Cuban too. which is a weird full circle thing there with the Cuban thing, because he was in My Man in Havana with Sir Alec Guinness, and he was actually there literally weeks before the revolution.
That's fucked up.
Anyway, so my whole infatuation with him comes back to the fact that, I don't know, he's more of a figure, especially in Trenton and Philadelphia. He's a traditional TV figure from the 50s. So you grow up a little bit familiar with him. The local, just whatever, now it's like the CW. Yeah. But it was just like that local, what is that, UHF affiliate?
Right.
Used to play the best of Ernie Kovacs, awesome. At 10 at night. And my TV, all I had was just antenna, so I used to watch this shit when I was like a little kid.
That's awesome.
And but yeah, so the history is that he came back from doing theater in some summer stock for like 2 years. He spent some time, actually, they mistreated him for tuberculosis. He had pneumonia. Oh. And they put him in a sanitarium for almost like 8 months. Jesus Christ. They removed one of his lungs and did all these things to like blow up his lungs for tuberculosis and all this stuff.
Holy shit.
So anyway, so that happens after the summer stock, and then he comes back to Trenton. He's working in a cigar store and a couple odd jobs, and then radio was just really starting up, because this is like the early 30s, right? 30s, mid 30s, and radio's just really starting to pick up. And basically he just went over to the station, and they needed someone to read news and weather in the morning. Yeah. And that's how he started. So he did that for several years, became a very intricate part of this new radio station that was in downtown Trenton. Did a lot of revolutionary things with that in radio. I mean, he literally would take the equipment, throw it in the back of a giant pickup truck, and do on-location.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and like he would, I mean, him and the people, there's something about him that he would have these concepts, and they would take the equipment and they would innovate. Yeah. Like, I mean, he would go and broadcast football games and things. I mean, this is back in the 30s. Right. This is before, when you're on location, what's that? There's a technical radio term for it.
I can't remember.
Anyway, he didn't have any of that equipment. He would literally take the entire studio, put it in the back of like a truck, and go and interview people during Christmas in downtown Trenton and stuff.
That's awesome.
So anyway, one thing leads to another, and he starts doing a morning radio show and working in Philadelphia, doing radio. And they had this show called Deadline for Dinner, and it was a cooking show. And they were filming it in Philadelphia, and the host, because at the time you had cooking shows, had a host and then the actual chef. Okay. And the host kind of would be the person, why are you doing that? And the chef would explain. It was kind of more like a tag team than just like the albeit Martha Stewart, omnipotent, I'll tell you everything thing. It had kind of more of this dynamic. Yeah. And that was a standard cooking show, really popular on early TV. So someone said, hey, Ernie Kovacs, he had a reputation of being a complete lunatic and like a lot of fun. They're like, he has a good voice, he does radio, and so they gave him that shot, and he had that gig for 3-4 years, and that's where everything kind of came from as far as, he, at the time, I don't think he had any real ambitions as far as anything I've read at TV. Yeah. I think the opportunity came, and he just took it, and he would have taken it no matter what, but it wasn't like he was like looking to get into TV or do anything. He was just kind of making ends meet. But he was always like a prankster, and opportunities presented himself that, the cooking show led to him doing the first, in the entire U.S., the first live morning show on radio. Really? Yeah. I'm sorry, the first live morning TV show. Oh, right. Yeah. Because they've been doing the radio shows, because he had been doing the radio show on the morning for a long time, so he's doing the cooking show. Okay. So then they say, well, they never broadcast TV until like 10 or 11 in the morning. Right. So they said, well, let's try it with him. The success of Ernie Kovacs in Philadelphia with his morning show actually is what led to the producers of NBC, because he worked as an NBC affiliate, to create the Today Show. Holy shit. Yeah. And the Today Show is the only reason why he was taken off after like 2-3 years in Philadelphia, was because the show that he had in Philadelphia was replaced, because they made Today a nationally broadcast show. But yeah, I mean, he was the precursor. The Today Show, which, think about how revolutionary that is to TV, format, everything, much fact it's still on today.
Right.
That was only done because he was killing ratings, and he actually was the first example that, hey, people watch TV in the morning while they're getting ready.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And most people just thought of it as an evening with your dinner thing, sort of.
Right. So and that's the story, and like literally it all started just with him just being right place, right time, and a guy not showing up for a cooking show in Trenton, random.
That's hilarious. Well, the thing about this album, obviously, like we were talking about earlier, it doesn't all translate because a lot of it's from a show. It sounds like 2 or 3 things were recorded specifically for the album, just the Percy Dove Tonsil stuff, maybe.
Yeah, I think the Percy Dove Tonsil stuff was probably, it sounds like it was taken from the radio archives, because the character of Percy Dove Tonsils goes way back to the Trenton days.
Okay.
Him on radio in Trenton.
That's fucking awesome.
But everything had that quirky feel. Film, radio, audio, his comedy. It was all kind of sketch, very kind of quick. He wrote he actually had for, God, I think like 6-7 years, he actually had a daily column in the Trentonia.
Jesus Christ,
and you see the same thing, because like you see like that the column every morning was all about play of words. The audio is all about weird sound effects and play on words and almost confusing. And the same thing with visuals, turning a camera upside down or angling a camera so when you pour a glass or pour water into a glass it pours on. So the album in some ways represents kind of his comedic, like, I guess, ethos.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's obviously they concentrate on what you could hear as much as possible.
Right.
It's I wish it could describe more of the I mean, we can describe more of the show. This is just an excuse to talk about him in general.
Right.
Because the album, like you say, does not give...
Yeah, it kind of. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple.
He used chroma key and stuff for the people weren't doing anything experimental or even at all with chroma key, to the best of my knowledge. I don't know when they started using it on TV.
Like chroma key, like what do you mean?
Like the blue. Well, wasn't a blue screen.
Oh, like the blue screen. Yeah, like superimposition.
Yeah.
Stuff. Oh, yeah.
But I mean, he was doing it the old-fashioned way, where he was using it
camera.
negative. He was using like black space.
Right. They're using black space, and they would. I've read about how they did it, and they did it camera on camera. They would do something that they would put 3 cameras on, a camera on a monitor on a camera on a monitor.
Oh, that makes sense.
And that's how it worked. I don't know shit
it's
about
insane,
TV.
But that's not that. But because if you because it's easy enough to whatever. I'm not gonna talk about the technical shit. But that makes sense. That's ridiculous though, because I mean he obviously that's just some Citizen Kane shit, because Orson Welles, they always said the reason Citizen Kane was so good is because he had no idea what his limits were, and he just asked how the fuck do we get this done, and somebody would figure it out for him. Obviously Ernie Kovacs was experimenting.
Well, that's exactly it. There's the guys in Philadelphia that he originally did the morning talk show, which is where a lot of the TV kind of like effects and all that type of stuff, where his gags and his techniques were developed. Like 2 of the guys ended up going and being like head engineers for NBC. His group that he had as engineers, just the cameramen and just the sounding engineers that he had in Philadelphia for the morning show, where he developed a lot of the initial techniques. 2 of those guys ended up being chief engineers for NBC, like in New York. Like they went, like these guys are actually recognized. I think there's like some sort of like TV technical award that's named after a guy who was Ernie Kovacs' cameraman.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's fucking.
So I mean, it was kind of right place, right time.
Yeah,
you know. I mean, I guess these guys like kind of had the know-how in a lot of ways.
Sorry, just making sure it's still recording.
That's cool. So, yeah. So I guess we could talk about the album.
Young Tom was, even now at this very moment, bound hand and foot and lying in an abandoned automat in the tuna fish salad slot. He had been slugged, drugged, and mugged by 4 masked men who had carried him off. The only clue Tom had as to their identity was what they called one another, stupid. However, Tom was not one to lie long in idleness, and soon his fertile brain concocted a scheme to free himself, perhaps in time for the game. Constructing a shortwave radio set with his upper lip and knees, he called the president of the New York Stock Exchange on the radio. Not giving his name, Tom merely said in a dignified yet friendly voice, "I understand the automat at 32 East Hefner Street is at an excellent location." The Stock Exchange president buzzed the buzzer, and soon the wheels of industry were set in motion. The automat was purchased for $1 million, incorporated, redecorated, and soon the customers were pouring in their nickels at the ready. If only, Tom thought, one of them would come over to the tuna fish salad slot. For, if I am any judge, the first 3 quarters of the Feats ball game, as Tom called it, are over. Then, unfortunately, an elderly gentleman wearing a pince-nez and carrying an umbrella stopped in front of the glass window covering the slot into which young Tom was crowded. Bless me, he expostulated, and Tom realized it was none other than his good friend, Professor Shockey. Tom tried to look as much like an appetizing tuna fish salad as possible so that the professor would open up the glass window. But alas, the professor chose a cream cheese salad instead with sliced pineapple.
Good. All right, so let's crack a beer. Where's mine? Is this
right there.
Mine?
Yeah, I opened it for you.
Sweet. All right, so let's start where we left off. So yeah, well, we didn't leave off anywhere specific, but yeah. So you were saying that. Yeah, obviously we were talking about how revolutionary the TV show was, and I mean, again, without showing them, it's hard. You know what I'll do is I'll put up links to YouTube clips that you pick. You just pick like ones that you think are like the best.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll put up like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah,
so
we can do that.
Just check it out. Because I mean, like you listen to this, and but the thing is though, listening to this album, I was just trying to think of stuff that I could compare it to as far as like wordplay, because it immediately reminded me of 2 things. One, like some of the best Monty Python stuff. Like their albums are great.
Yes, Monty Python.
So much stuff.
All the writers from Monty Python and Terry Gilliam and all the main writers. What's the other main guy? Not
Cleese.
Not Cleese. The other one. I always
Eric
forget
Idle.
his name. Yeah, Eric Idle.
Yeah.
Eric Idle has talked that in interviews I've read that. Ernie Kovacs is one of his hands down most influential.
Okay.
So,
I
like Eric Idle's literally said that.
Yeah,
so, I mean, that's actually really perceptive.
That makes me happy because, like, his some of this. I don't know if you ever heard the scene that is the Monty Python sketch where he's reading like a kid's book, supposedly a kid's book.
Right.
Just like just the way the words are formed, even though a lot of them are nonsense. It's the same thing. It's a mixture of like
it's like the
really good
deadpan
language, but yeah, it's deadpan. It's really good language, some nonsense language, but it's like. It's poetry in how beautiful it sounds because it's so ridiculous.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's kind
of. I think the other thing that they have in common too is the one thing that's really interesting about Ernie Kovacs, I think, and I'm like fascinated by him.
Sure.
Is his comedy comes from a different place. It comes from the same place that like Monty Python is.
Yeah.
It's very like populist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like. You laugh at Monty Python. It's almost like they're making comedy from the audience perspective.
Sure.
The subject matter and all those things. They're not sitting there and editorializing, because that's your normal comedian. Right. Your standard stand-up is an editorial.
Sure.
I mean, that's all the way back to like the Roman days and the Greeks. That's what the comedist was. You know, like that's what that concept was. Like a comedian.
Yeah.
But this is like different, and it's like Monty Python's the same way. It's about like an absurd situation going into a pet store,
right? Or
it's about an absurd child story, or something like that.
And it takes things that people understand, but it's absurd, but it's completely accessible absurdity, which is not the case for a lot of quote unquote art. You know, a lot of people really hated Andy Kaufman. You know, take him or leave him. Right. But I think a lot of people would appreciate Ernie Kovacs for whatever reason. I don't know if it's...
Well, there are a lot of his later stuff, too, which obviously isn't in audio. It's almost all visual. Like, his most successful and, like, critically acclaimed... This is Ernie Kovacs. His most successful and critically acclaimed thing was a character... Well, 2 things. One was a character named Eugene. Okay. Which basically had a lot of spots on specials. He did a lot of TV specials. Okay. And actually had his own special at one point, like the Eugene... movie essentially.
Really? Awesome.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And that was basically silent. It was all sight gag.
Holy shit.
And the other one that he's really famous for is the silent. It's actually called like the Silent Show. And well, Eugene's in that a lot, and it's like an olive like hits the table and rolls off, and it makes like a chainsaw sound. And when when the olive rolls off the table and falls on the floor, there's like a big explosion. So it's kind of like this like. This manipulation stuff. Yeah. So I think when you talk about all the people, like, you can say, point is that you can say Ernie Kovacs has influenced everybody.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
But what you can say is that different aspects of his comedy kind of influenced people like Kaufman because they were tuned more into the surrealist absurdity stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of the absurd stuff where he just seems to go on and on and on, almost where it feels like he might be testing you, like Andy Kaufman did a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's what that's like. It's funny too because a lot of his material is very hit or miss. Everything is hit or miss with it, and it's because jokes run too long.
Sure.
And that's like the whole Andy Kaufman thing.
Right.
And and then you have that question as a comedian, right? Is it running too long because that's part of the joke, or does the comedian not know how to edit themselves?
Exactly, right. Yeah.
And it's like, how clever are they? That there's some bits. The thing is, like, there's so much output from Ernie Kovacs in like 10 years' time.
Yeah.
Much less all the output from his radio shows and and none of those tapes exist, like all the Philadelphia morning shows. But everything you read about him is that there's a lot of output.
Yeah.
And there is things that aren't great gags.
Right.
But he's more experimental. It's just put it out there.
Yeah.
And then you find greatness, and you find mediocre.
Exactly. I mean, you do it enough.
Right. But then you wonder how much of the mediocre is just for the sake of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, anybody who by their nature is that experimental has got to be just trying shit.
Right. Right.
You know? And, I mean...
And at some point, are they just trying that totally absurd Tom Swift story, which this album opens with?
Yeah.
Is that just being tried just to literally test the audience patience?
Right. Right.
You know?
And that, to me, that's definitely worth it. Because, I mean, listening to it, I was like... I definitely found some stuff that I thought was great. But then the rest of it, I'm like, what the fuck is he doing?
Yeah, what's going on
Is he
here?
doing something to me?
Right, right.
Or does he genuinely think this is worth my time or his time?
Right.
Like, and it doesn't matter because there's enough payoff, I think, in it. Especially, again, visually. There's way more paying off visually.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But, man.
Dear Mr. Question Man, I am sending this letter from inside my steamer trunk. While I was packing my clothes for a proposed trip to Naples and Venice, the lid snapped shut, and I am locked inside. What shall I do?
I think you should give up your plans for the trip. I feel that you will not enjoy an ocean voyage inside this trunk, and it does not seem a fair test for those delectable Italian dishes. They lose much of their flavor after being shoved through a keyhole.
But and the other thing too to remember is so much of what he did. Again, I think of it a lot in the context of, like you said, Monty Python.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like it's all perspective, and a lot of what he does is essentially parody.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that Tom Swift skit might seem like completely absurd and really kind of almost boring, and the gag's running way too long for us now.
Yeah.
But someone that's tuned into it and getting it in 1956,
that was the other thing I was thinking.
right, is looking at it because it's kind of like a parody. I think of like like the youth novel, the youth story.
Right.
You know, like I don't know, like Johnny Quick or whatever. John Quest, Johnny Quest or something. Right. Well, not really that, but you know what I'm saying. It's like there's some sort of genre that's being. So, there's that too.
Yeah, I mean, an image is going to help you carry something that might not work on, any image. Like, that was the whole appeal of TV, is that you no longer had to use your imagination as much. You were being fed something, and it was a whole lot easier, I think, to relax. For older people, I think TV maybe was, radio is still, like, responsible for a lot of people's imagination growing. TV is more like...
Well, it's funny you mention that, too, because this is now just me on Ernie Kovacs, right? Mm-hmm. But when I've, read about... I've read a couple books on it, and done some research and stuff. And it's just interesting seeing him pretty much all of his stuff. And so this is just my take on it. Not that I'm anything...
It doesn't matter, but you don't need to qualify.
But what I find is, you read about his biography, he's a prankster.
Yeah.
Right? And you think about radio, and he was kind of in production, kind of an everything guy. Mm-hmm. Like I said, he was doing on radio through an audio medium. He was doing football games, and he was doing skits, and he was doing comedy, and he was interviewing people, and he was kind of like everybody, a real small radio, like everything guy. So I think it's this weird combination of the fact that he always was a prankster.
Yeah.
Ever since he was 2, always playing pranks. And the fact that audio is an illusion, or the radio is an illusion-based medium.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Like sound effects and all that. And I think the reason why he was so revolutionary was because his personality was as a prankster, and then he gets his initial training and experience and taste in the business as in radio. Then he goes to TV, and he's not just thinking about filming things or writing things.
Right.
They didn't write anything.
Sure.
There were no scripts.
It's insane.
All these things that we heard today, that's all improv. That's just him making it up. He would have a couple notes.
Right.
And that's it.
That's fucking insane.
When it's
that's
funny.
Insane.
Yeah, when you read some of the skits, this is radio and TV that they would have, it literally would be for that Tom Swift story, it'd be sit down and tell the story of Tom Swift at the football game. That is the written script.
Holy shit.
And he would just kind of go with it like that. So I think the point is that I think that kind of tendency for prank and illusion that he kind of got with radio had him sit down, and he's not sitting there just thinking, I'm going to tell a good story.
Right.
Or I'm not going to make this theatrically sound.
Yeah.
I'm going to make an illusion.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be entertaining.
Right.
Like how radio is.
Right.
Like it's entertaining when you're listening to the radio and it sounds like someone's shooting a gun.
Sure.
Because, you know, Detective Sleuth is about to get somebody. You know, you're thinking like 1930s radio.
Yeah.
Little Orphan Annie or something. It's like stuck in
I like Detective Sleuth a lot.
Detective Sleuth. Let's stick with him. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like you're a little kid, you're sitting by the radio and like, oh my God, they're really shooting guns. But really what they're doing is they're like popping balloons or some shit.
Yeah.
And I think it's that mentality. The fact that he was born at the time that he did, he had the personality that he did, and he had that experience in radio that he just... Then he goes to TV and he doesn't see it as just, you know, putting theater on a flat screen.
Right, which was absolutely what all the early TV was.
Right, he saw it as a... Or just putting radio with images.
Right.
He actually saw it as this, like, medium that you can manipulate.
Sure.
It's funny, too, because he actually always refers to it as the orthicon tube. I'm being transmitted to you through the orthicon tube. And that's what he sees it as, the science.
Yeah.
You know? The other thing, real quick, and then I'll stop babbling, is the other thing that's really interesting, which was revolutionary for him, or in general, or revolutionary for TV, is he totally broke, like, what do you call that in theater, the fourth wall.
Yeah.
Like, one of his earliest programs, they had to fill time, so he just had the cameraman take the camera off the stand, and he went into the control room and gave a tutorial on how TV's made.
That's awesome.
You know, I mean, that's unheard of.
Right.
I mean, we're talking, like, seriously, this is, like, 1949.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
TV's such a new medium anyway, and he's back there, and he's telling you, like, this is done with cameras, and these are sets. These are faked. Oh, this is cardboard, and this is... And so, like, I think he wanted to put everybody in on the joke so everyone could just enjoy the surrealism or the prank that's TV.
When so much of early TV, all of entertainment actually, is built on not just a lie of what you're seeing and not just a lie of the story. Not to be cynical about it, but they are, you know, a lot of it's built on a lie, period. But also a lie of who you are as like an entertainer or whatever, but it doesn't sound like he gave a fuck about that, obviously.
I think he appreciated, and that, you know, he had the characters for a reason. Because the characters are that lie. Yeah. But it's like applied.
Yeah, of course.
But then he had like this genuine... Yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's this genuine, like... His character was genuine, but the characters he would portray wouldn't be because he kind of started from the same point that we do.
And you don't get to see that anymore. And nobody's playing games the way he was with TV.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand. It's not a new medium anymore. It's what? It's now 60 years old.
Right.
But almost 70 years old. And nobody's playing with it in the same way. I still think there is room for it. I mean, people are playing, you know, I understand the internet's the new frontier, et cetera, blah, 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 he says to his podcast people. But, I don't know, it just seems like people could still be trying to do something instead of talking at a fucking camera all day.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, why not?
Right.
He, I was also thinking, he reminds me, I don't know if you've ever seen Hugh Laurie's old sketch show with Stephen Fry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Fucking, a lot of the stuff Stephen Fry does. Like, a lot of just playing with language.
Yeah.
And with sound effects, too, sort of in the... Not sound effects, but nonsense words and sounds in language just for the sake of saying them and just making them sound weird. It just... Yeah, there's a lot of, like, I'm going to satisfy myself here and see what happens with it and see if it's funny. I mean, if he was improvising, improvisers got to face it. That's a lot of what that is. I'm going to have fun here. Hopefully they enjoy it, too.
Right.
Do you know what the audience response was for Ernie Kovacs on TV? Like, how long was he on? How popular was he? Like,
he was on TV pretty much nonstop from, I guess, like 1951 to his death in 1962. He died in 62.
Right.
And but he was never on a steady gig. He would be at some point he was when Steve Allen went on Sunday nights with the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
And Steve Allen did this special Tonight Show extravaganza on Sundays.
Okay.
Something that I guess it's like 57 or some shit. Ernie Kovacs picked up the Monday and Tuesday nights to lighten Steve Allen's load.
Oh.
So he was kind of like the temp second guy for the Tonight Show in the late 50s.
Okay.
He did programs all over the place. Well, first, his most successful medium definitely was the Philadelphia Morning Show. Okay. That ran for like 2-3 years. and then it got knocked out by Today. And then after that, he kind of just was this talent that was like pushed around.
Okay.
I mean, he was with the old Dumont, which was like the fourth major TV distributor or TV producer network in the 50s. It shut down in the late 50s. I don't know when. But he worked with Dumont, ABC. I don't think he might have done some stuff with CBS too, and NBC. A lot of work with him. So like he would have a special there. The only one that ever had him on contract was towards the end of his career, or toward the end of his life, not his career per se. Was NBC.
Yeah.
And that was when the time he switched into film and started acting in movies.
That's got to say something for who he was, that like he wasn't tied down and he could do every network.
Yeah, no, he was. It's this interesting dynamic because he would always fight for creative control.
Right.
And when it came to money, as far as a single gig, I always have gotten the impression in reading about him is that the money for the one gig didn't matter as long as he could creatively do it.
Yeah.
But he would take every possible gig.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he worked. I mean, that's why there's so much output.
Yeah.
It's because he had all kinds of money problems too, like IRS and.
Oh yeah.
He spent like crazy. I mean, they had like a rotating. I read something about Jack Lemmon, who was one of his best friends, talking about how it was the only house in Beverly Hills that had like this giant rotating turntable for cars that pulled up in the driveway.
Holy shit!
And this is like in like 56, 57 or what? 57. So hold on, I gotta let those dogs out.
I thought you might be interested in a very heartwarming story that I ran across in paper. Typed it out and brought it in. Man's best friend. 10 years ago yesterday, John C. Flick left his home in Elks Thorax, Nevada, to buy a loaf of bread. He stood on his porch, fondly petted his collie Rex, fed him some veal cutlet, promised to return promptly, and started on his way. His faithful dog Rex fondly watched him from the porch. An hour passed, and John C. Flick did not return. A day passed, and John C. Flick did not return. A week, a month. And through it all, his faithful dog Rex stood vigil on the porch. 10 years passed. The collie Rex remained at his post on the porch. Finally, yesterday, John C. Flick returned home. Rex, standing eagerly on the porch, saw his master, leaped to meet him on the walk, and bit him on the leg.
I was talking about.
Yeah, why was I talking about that?
Just because he had tax problems and he's
he's a big money spender. Yeah. Oh, and the point is that so he would try and make as much money as he possibly could.
Right.
But he would always make like artistic control was pretty strong for him. So I think that was the dynamic.
I mean, you would only do that if you loved TV that much.
Yeah, but it's funny because towards the end of the career, once he got to L.A., he like hated TV.
Because of what it became, or he just was sick of it?
Well, he wrote the novel Zumar, which is a total kind of parody and a total lampooning, kind of brutal in a lot of ways, of the growth of the TV industry in the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Yeah.
It follows this like fictitious TV producer.
Okay.
He was a smart dude. So I think at some point he just... Well, your initial question was who was he on? Yeah. And he was on TV constantly with a special this month or subbing for Steve Allen these days, but I think him getting kind of tossed around and it's just like this utility talent, right, but being so revolutionary. So and then you asked his audience. The audience's reaction was mixed, and the critical reaction was mixed. Yeah. People absolutely psychotically followed him. Probably something close to like Stern in like the 80s or 90s, right? And then the other half just thought it was just like weird and just totally...
Yeah, they wanted their regular shit.
He would go on TV or on the radio and he'd be like, we don't have enough props, I need stuffed monkeys. And literally he'd get like hundreds of stuffed monkeys, like Mail Talk.
Holy shit.
Like all this random stuff. And, yeah, and like do all these random promotions and get all these props and all this response and all these items. And
the problem with, I mean, that seems to be the problem, I mean, with anybody who tries to innovate or do something different is, quote-unquote, middle America is not the demographic that they fit, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And, of course, they're not going to try and sell them to middle America because they don't think they're going to want to see anything different or new. Mm-hmm. Give them Leave It to Beaver, and then, you know.
Well, I think the other thing, too, is the early TV industry was the right place for him.
Sure.
And TV in the 60s wouldn't have been.
Right.
Because it was getting formalized, but all the people that were in TV in the 50s and the 40s that he first was getting in touch with, and in radio, you know, it makes sense, because he was in radio like in the 30s and 40s, when that was just burgeoning and just starting out, with a startup radio. So we always worked with people that were artistically open.
Yeah.
Because these were the cowboys of the industry anyway, because they were the first ones to do anything in the medium.
It's hard when there's no frontier left at that point.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's 1962, the frontier's gone, and now they just want him to kind of behave, and because he's a popular name, just be on an interview show.
Right.
And that's the last goddamn thing
No,
he'd
absolutely.
ever do.
It would have been miserable, I
Right.
would imagine.
So
There'd be nothing left to innovate. I wonder what, I mean, you said he did like 10 movies? Something like that?
yeah, something like that, like 8, 9, 10 movies.
Do you know what were they pretty straightforward? He didn't have
No, I mean, some of them, originally they were comedy roles. The first movie was I guess, 57 or 56. It was with Jack Lemmon, and it was Operation Madball.
Okay.
And it was kind of like this, I think that the name of it was something like that. I could look it up. But it's like Operation Madball or something. It was with Jack Lemmon, and it was kind of like a comedy, a military war comedy, which would have been popular at the time, Korean War and all that.
Yeah.
And he always took these kind of like really extreme characters. A lot of times comedic, but also darkly comedic. You know, in what is it? I think it's in My Man in Havana with Al Guinness. He actually plays like a Batista regime, like psycho-fascist guy.
Really?
Yeah, but almost like comedically. Like he's authoritarian, but it's kind of so. He's towards his the trajectory he was going on. Was he'd be like the third build guy, and just the comedic bartender, or the comedic ranch manager, or something like that. Who was kind of not like goofy, not like like hey lady like style, not like that type of you know, comedy, but he would be kind of the comic relief in somewhat of a drama, but nothing too heavy.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was a trained actor. He did summer stock and those things. I mean, he did Shakespeare, and he did all this kind of, like, art theater in the 30s, and when he was a kid in New York, in Long Island. So I could see him, and I think that's the direction he was going. He was going more for like the surrealism for comedy, and you know, there's a lot of dark places I think in his persona that he probably would have moved, and he was moving into those roles. It wasn't just like straight comedic slapstick goofy.
Right. So they weren't just money gigs.
No, not at all.
So there was a chance for him to experiment in something new, which is
I think absolutely. I mean, his ambitions. It's actually kind of sad because when he died in a car accident, that's how he died. He actually was working really hard and working less in TV, and he was hosting a quiz show or some shit at the time. But he was working really hard to start his own production film company and focus on writing. And I think he was trying to get behind the camera more, or in major motion pictures, be in front, but with these kind of collaborative or things that he had a part. And his TV work in the last 2 years of his life, or especially the last year, all the specials got very, not surreal, but very artistic, I guess. They're the bits. You know that famous bit? Did I ever show you the bit with the monkeys? To the what the hell is it? The 1812.
Yes. Yeah. You did.
And it's got like the monkeys and the bullhead that's spinning around, and the guy breaking celery to the cymbal crashes.
Yes.
That was towards the end of his career.
Okay.
Right? That one, did you see that bit where they're eating spaghetti to the Russian march?
I think so.
Right, like that's towards the end of his career.
Okay.
So I see him going in that type of direction, but on a grander scale.
Right.
You know?
Do you think he would have done that with movies? He would have become one of those guys? Like he would have maybe moved into like a Mike Nichols arena, like directed like some really groundbreaking movies? Or like what would have happened like once Smothers Brothers and Laugh-In hit and people are trying to be experimental again all of a sudden? It's becoming hip.
Right.
You know, would he have gone back into TV, or do you think he would have?
I think he might have been if it was at the right moment, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's all conjecture.
It's all conjecture, and the reason why I'm not, just shying away from that is because conjecture, but because, like I said, so much of what he did would be time and place.
Yeah.
In a weird way, the next thing that Ernie Kovacs would be waiting for would be like the friggin' internet.
That's what I was thinking.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
that's what his type of thing was, such, like, time and place, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, he just had such an imaginative and kind of open mind that... So, I don't know with film. It's interesting, you know what's really interesting, though, is to think about, like, film, you know, because he only did one thing in color on TV. There's only one program in color.
Jesus.
So, I mean, he had all these revolutionary effects in that, but think about, like, special effects in the 60s.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
You know? It's like 1960, you're going from this, and then 1970.
Yeah.
Think of what you're capable of film-wise and editing-wise.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that he would have been right at the front of that.
Right.
You know? Like, that's where he would have really put his focus in, you know?
And I don't feel like we're seeing... I don't know. I can bitch all I want, and it's going to sound like I'm just a sourpuss. But, you know, I don't feel like I'm seeing that in the internet. I think that needs to happen. Somebody needs to be doing what he was doing in every medium.
Well, like, oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like playing with it. I mean, the internet is... It's more limited than people think. It's still just video and audio. It's just combining all the other ones, and I don't know what.
Well, when it's combined, then you get porn.
Right. Exactly. That's the fun part. But yeah, no, I mean that's the thing about him. He just, for me, he inspires the shit out of me as a comedian. He makes me want to just keep doing comedy because I see that people were doing that back then, and there's no reason to not still be doing it. For you though, as a musician or as a writer, as all that other crap, I mean, has he influenced you as far as that goes, or is he just a funny guy to you?
No, I think he's influenced me personally. Yeah, more probably on like just the surrealist. I just remember being really tripped out when my dad explained to me that, oh yeah, and that's the Fat Frank, my dad. His name's Fat Frank, audience. But like he had like some voices like this, my dad, and he'd be like, oh yeah, he's doing that shit in like the 50s, man. And I just remember being like so blown away when my dad explained to me that this shit's not from MTV.
Right.
This is not MTV sketch comedy. This isn't like from like 86.
Right.
Right? Which is like, oh man, that's so crazy. No. He was doing this shit in 1957.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like this type of surrealist sketch comedy, quick-witted, dark. I mean, people getting their heads cut. Like the joke is that someone got set, you know, like a little kid got decapitated or a screw in their head.
Right.
You know,
right.
like that's the joke, but it's off camera.
Sure.
You know, and it's done in such a way that it's just like, oh, the girl just got hit in the face with a golf club. You know, so it kind of has like that darkness. I think that was really influential to me.
Yeah.
Like as far as that humor and that kind of freedom that in you know, that's kind of weird. But I think that definitely, because I'm not as much of a comedic guy. I mean, I'm funny as hell, but I'm not like a comedian or comic writer. So I think, he's been a big influence to me as far as his, kind of innovation and probably dark comedy. Like his you know, that you can use you can use all the tools in the drawer.
Exactly.
You know? Like
most people don't think about that.
No.
They've got a camera.
A genre.
They let somebody else set it all up for them. Yeah. Let somebody else write it.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Right. I mean, but, you know, it's production. That's why it's called production.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you're producing cars. You're nailing fenders to frames.
Yeah.
You're producing TV shows. You're putting writers with cameramen. You know?
I don't trust you to make my car because you're going to use nails. So please don't ever make a car for me.
It's true. It's true. I would use nails and duct tape because I'm Polish. And
is that
proud.
a Polish thing?
Yeah. Well, in Trenton it is.
Oh, okay.
Here are the rules for Drungo. In each box you will find 33 green ping pong balls cut in half called semis, 11 blue simulated plastic squares called drilligs, 17 yellow rectangular markers called jundos, 11 pink wooden triangles called pink wooden triangles. 143 arrows with orange suction cups on the ends, 106 arrows with red suction cups on the ends, 113 arrows with Glen Plaid suction cups on the end, 2 arrows with steel tips dipped in poison curare. 1 deck of cards with pictures of famous Chinese rickshaw pullers of the early 11th century on their fronts. 1 large Drungo board with a catch set on automatic time lock. How to play. First, open the Drungo board when the automatic time lock goes off. Take out the 441 pieces and the rickshaw puller's deck of cards. Then disassemble the Drungo box and reassemble it, following the 30-page instruction booklet to form one Drungo board, a card table, 4 chairs, and a self-revolving automatic Susan for a centerpiece on which you can place fruit, nuts, or bits of candy for your guests.
That's another interesting thing on him, too, just from a personal level, is, you know, he's Eastern European, and he's from Trenton, man.
Uh-huh.
It's like, hell yeah, represent.
Is he Polish, too?
No, he's actually Czech.
He's Czech, okay.
Yeah.
Still, pretty close. You guys look similar.
Yeah.
I just think...
Wait, is he Hungarian?
I don't know. It's just... I was also
I think he's Hungarian, actually.
Yeah?
Jesus, yeah.
All right.
I think Kovacs is a Hungarian name.
We need to get those tapes, man. Like that, you just blew my mind when you told me that.
Oh, in my grandmother's attic?
Yeah. That's
weird,
fucking
huh?
sick. That is sick.
Yeah.
Like, just for the sake of those need to be out there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably like the only copies of it because they're masters.
Right, exactly. There's no...
So
I mean,
knows
what period do you think they're from? 30s?
Probably late 30s.
Because there's, 30s and 40s, they were still doing, like, local stations would make copies on their own, like, cutters.
That's what that is.
You know?
And it's, like, not in vinyl. It's, like, in a heavy slate.
That's what I
mean, they're heavy.
I have a
like,
Roosevelt speech like that on a 45 size one.
But these things are, like...
That big?
Like, yeah, they're, like, well, like a foot and a half across.
A foot and a half across.
Yeah, they're like that. They're like, not wagon
Where the hell do you get
higher.
anything to put those on?
I don't know. I guess I gotta go to some fucking
Christ.
lab or some shit at NYU.
I guess it's so they didn't have to flip the sides. The one I have is a 45 size.
Well, I think it's two-sided, too.
Huh.
But I guess the blanks were that big because they probably recorded like 10 hours of audio. Right. I don't know.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I got. My uncle checked them out before, and because I don't live there, I don't.
Right.
And the attic's full of like stuff.
Anybody who's out there, please tell us how we can play these and record them. That's all I'm asking.
That's
Mr.
right.
Internet, that's how we refer to
Right.
people out there as Mr. Internet.
That's right.
I can't tell as far as, because I haven't watched the videos in a while and just listening to this album, was there a big audience? Was there any audience? Or was that the fucking crew?
Good point. This, obviously, for this production, they put laugh tracks in.
Okay.
In between the things.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded like on a couple of the bits, there was a studio audience.
Right.
He hated his studio audience, and none of his actual TV has any his radio or anything has canned laughs.
Okay,
It repulsed him. Like
Understandable.
He couldn't do it.
Yeah.
That was like literally in his contracts from what I gather.
That's awesome.
It's like when he'd sign on, he'd be doing a show, he'd be like, and he was extremely resistant to studio audiences.
Yeah.
And when they did get studio audiences, a lot of times he would bring them into the thing. He'd bring them up on stage and put them on the skit. Yeah, because I don't know. I don't really understand that aspect to him. I understand the no can laugh thing.
There's a lack of control, I think. Maybe.
That might have been it. Because he does have like a control thing, especially because he had so many crazy personal issues on the outside of his life.
Sure.
Like his kids were kidnapped.
Oh, that's right. Tell that story.
Okay, so his wife, he had 2 wives. He married Edie Adams in the 50s, who was a stage, she won a Tony. She's a stage star and like beautiful woman. Just Jesus, just gorgeous woman. But she's like, one of these starlets from the 50s, TV singer, musical.
A lot younger than him?
Yeah, I think 9 years.
Okay.
8-9 years difference.
That's significant.
Yeah, so it's significant. And they met while she was his singer in Philadelphia. She got cast for the part of just like for the morning show. She was just part of the cast, but she was the pretty girl that sang.
Okay.
So she would sing a number, like to kill time and help you in your morning getting ready. So that's where they met. Before that, he was married to, I think her name was Betty Wilcox. And she was a dancer and singer that he had met while he was doing radio from Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
And apparently, then again, this is just me, and she's dead, so can't have any slander issues. But apparently she's just batshit crazy.
Okay.
Real beautiful girl. They had 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
He had another child with Edie Adams.
Okay.
And the marriage fell apart. Apparently, the first wife was really difficult and not really into the whole domestic scene. And then one day she just left.
Jesus.
She just disappeared. And she was gone, I don't know, for whatever, 6 months, a year. And then she showed back up. And at that time, Ernie Kovacs was like, no, and just because he was pretty devastated by the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, I wasn't there, but from what I gather, they never got back together. 4 or 5 years later, they ended up finally filing for divorce, but they were separated for a long time. So then he's with Edie Adams. I think he's actually married to her at this point. I don't know if he's married to her at this point, but so the mother gets back in the picture and takes the kids for a weekend, gets to see the kids like twice a month or something. Big custody battles, all this legal costs in between, but it ends up, Ernie Kovacs ends up having main custody. And the first wife, she comes back in, takes the kids for the weekend, puts them on a ferry, and that's it. Ernie Kovacs don't see him for, I don't know, it was like 2 years.
Holy shit.
So it ends up, they went all around. Her actual parents apparently helped take the kids away. They went back down to Florida and were hiding out like in a trailer attached to the back of a diner for 2 years. Those kids were like sleeping on mattresses and like, you know, on a porch.
Jesus
Like
Christ.
in Jacksonville, Florida.
Wow.
In like, you know, 1955.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
Wow.
So, he ended up spending a fortune on private detectives and all these things, constantly taking trips from work to go down and just drive around Florida with his dad, looking for him randomly and doing his own. I mean, we're talking huge, like 2 years. And then they finally find him. I'm not even sure how they actually ended up finding him, if it was a tip or someone ID'd the kids or something. Because the kids weren't allowed to go to school or something.
Jesus.
Because the kids were like, you know, like, because they were afraid that someone would recognize him. Because at this point he's on TV too. He's talking about this shit on TV.
Yeah.
He's like showing pictures of his kids on his own, like when he's like subbing for Steve Allen.
Yeah.
He would like take a minute and be like, by the way, if you've seen my children type thing. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, heavy shit.
Yeah.
So anyway, they found him. They took the kids away, and ironically, they had to go back to court, but this time they had to be in Florida, and. You know, another reason why, you know, they got us in 2000, and I guess, you know, and they got us in, you know, they got Ernie Kovacs in 58. Big, long custody trial, and they ended up giving full custody to the mother that kidnapped them.
Jesus.
And it was crazy.
Wow.
But at this point, Ernie was already back, and he had moved from New York to California, because he went from Trenton to Philadelphia to New York, and now he's in California.
Yeah.
He just... Or no, I guess they just went back to New York, or they just never went back to Florida. Yeah. So at the time of Ernie's death, he actually had an outstanding warrant for his arrest in Florida.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus
Because
Christ.
the wife kidnapped the kids.
Yeah.
Kind of weird, though.
Yeah, that's insane.
It was like a really weird deal. And then, of course, you have the issue of his death. I don't know how much more tape we have.
No, we're fine.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, we're good.
But he died in a car accident.
Right.
He was drinking that night. It was actually at Milton Berle's house. It was to celebrate the adoption, he had adopted a kid, Burl, and there was some kind of big party up in the hills, and he left the party. It was like midnight, 1 a.m. He had been drinking. I think I remember seeing that the blood alcohol content was like 1.0 or something.
Yeah, okay.
It wasn't like crazy.
Right, but it's enough to...
It's enough to be buzzed.
Yeah.
And it was a rainstorm. And the story is, of course, no one was there. He wasn't with his wife because his wife had driven separately because they were on the rocks at the time. Apparently. And he was doing other stuff. But the story is that he was trying to light a cigar. Because he always had the cigars.
Yeah.
Because when he wrapped around a pole on Santa Monica, I think it's Beverly Glen and Santa Monica is the actual avenue. Or the actual intersection in L.A., and he wrapped his car around the pole, his Corvair around the pole, and when the paramedics found him, he was dead. This is like 2 in the morning, so I guess he was there for who knows how long.
Yeah.
Half an hour, 45 minutes before paramedics showed up. But he was actually like, his draped arm was right next to an unlit cigar. So that's where the whole legend comes from, that he went there. But yeah, he died from injuries sustained in the crash. And then,
Jesus Christ.
Then it was like a rainstorm too, so the roads were slick, so it's just kind of a random weird thing.
Unless the person going first also used the high roller go first dice in his trial roll, in which he will go third. The highest roller going second and the lowest roller going first, unless the lowest roller has more than half the drill eggs or 1/3 the pink wooden triangles. in his possession at the time of the opening of the game, in which case no one goes first. However, the person rolling second may challenge the lowest rower by throwing down 2 yellow rectangular jundos and 3 pictures of rickshaw pullers while holding the 3 fingers nearest the little finger of the left hand horizontally. His challenge will halt opening play unless he should also extend his little finger horizontally, in which case the player being challenged shouts, "Little finger out," and may penalize the challenger 4 semis and 11 red suction cup arrows. Provided, of course, he turns 3 jundos face down before shouting "Little finger out." Opening move now decided, we're ready to begin play. The high roller now rolls, including the pair of dice marked high roller first. He tabulates his roll of the 12 pairs of dice, including the high roller go first dice, and moves his drillick a corresponding number of blocks ahead, unless he has thrown an odd number, in which case he moves his semis 1/2 the total distance and his jundos 1/3 the total distance. He does not move the pink wooden triangles at all.
Do you think, I mean, as far as level of appreciation, I mean, I don't know, compared to how much there was in his own time, I mean, how long did it take for people to kind of remember, oh yeah, this guy existed and he was a genius? I mean, they made a movie about his life.
Yeah, well, they did make a movie.
Right.
In the 80s with Jeff Goldblum.
Right.
Have you ever seen it?
No, you told me about it.
It's horrible.
Oh, that's too bad.
But
how long did it take people to give a shit?
I think he was always... See, it's hard for me to gauge that, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually a better question for me to ask you.
Yeah.
Because in the Philadelphia, Trenton region, if you grew up there and your parents were born in Philly or Trenton, you know who Ernie Kovacs is, because it's just like, I don't know, what's the equivalent? I don't know, local guy who would be the equivalent, but
right.
Like, what's the name of the weather guy? Someone that's listening in San Diego, what was the name of the weather guy in the 80s?
Right.
I'm sure you know. And everybody in San Diego knows the name of that guy.
Right.
So, I mean, he has more of that type of role.
Right.
As far as with his nationally televised things and his movie appearances, he probably... I mean, I think he had a legacy that I don't think he never really... He never got to the point of, like, superstardom.
Right.
He was just this novel character in the industry.
Right.
And I don't think he... I mean, then this is just my opinion on, like, whatever. So, you know, whatever it is. But I don't think he ever left that level. You know, I don't think anyone ever forgot about him.
Sure.
But I don't think anyone really thought about him when he was around.
Right.
Outside of people talking about novelty in television or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like 1957, someone was probably having a conversation. It's like, oh, Ernie Kovacs is breaking ground. And it's like someone like 1977 that's in the industry would probably have a conversation and be like, you know who broke ground? Ernie Kovacs. You know, in some ways I feel like it's like that.
Yeah, I mean,
but I guess he's definitely, he's not in the public eye, so he's much, like in mass, he's obviously a forgotten figure. I mean, you ask people on the street, no one knows who the hell he is.
Yeah, and the thing is, before you started talking to me about him, I just knew the name. I knew my mom liked him. It was one of those things that where my mom exposed me to everything that she liked. But this was one thing where I don't know, there was no way she could have, there was no internet at the time, so we weren't rerunning his shit in upstate New York.
Right.
Not when
and it's like, there's no exposure, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I just.
Well, they did. If it's any indication, they did recently issue a very good, not complete, but pretty good, thorough box set.
Yeah.
And back in the '80s, there were, because I owned all this, and I own all this.
Yeah.
But there was a series of 3 VHS tapes.
Okay.
That were published in the '80s by some whatever.
Yeah.
That were the best of his shows.
Okay.
And that was re-released on DVD. And that's really the only medium you have now for him.
Do you think there was a reason? I mean, the thing is, he was an experimenter. Whether you want to think he's a genius or not, I guess that doesn't matter. But, like, is it fine that he remains at the level that he's at because he was an experimenter and at the very least people know he was there and they can see his... Or would it have been better for him to be more famous now so more people would experiment the way he does? You know
Well, no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot of things that people can learn from him or take from his life and his work.
Yeah.
More than just the fact of, I guess, like, what's the word that I'm looking for? Just, like, more than, like a nostalgia aspect.
Sure.
You know? Like, he's yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like, yeah, I think I think he definitely could be more in the public consciousness beyond just nostalgia because of how revolutionary he is.
Sure.
You know, he's just completely groundbreaking.
I can see
some of the shit that he did, even on this, you know, it's pretty interesting. This was more like character-based.
Yeah.
Because that was his one big thing. But, I mean, you watch some of the things that he did, and it's just like...
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, I mean, I guess you have to have a little bit more perspective to understand how little people were doing with the technology at the time. So I mean, you got to at least place yourself in the mind of a current TV watcher at the
right,
time,
exactly.
You know? Which is, I think, is hard for some people, which is why they can't appreciate older stuff.
Right.
Maybe they just can't. They're like, oh, I've seen that before. Well, that's not the point.
Right.
You know, and you know, but the stuff. I mean, and now once you tell me that he like was probably shooting off of other monitors. Like, that's insane.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's
All
an
the stuff
insane
that
way
he does
to do
is
it.
like insane.
I don't know. I don't know how he accomplished anything that looked as good as he did doing it that way. But yeah, I don't know. More people just need to know about him.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, I agree. I think at some point it'll probably come around to. Well, like I said, that big box set was just put out this year.
Yeah.
So
I'll put up a link to that on the website too, because people should just check.
Yeah,
people just need to
it's only
watch this shit.
like $25 too, and it's like 8 DVDs.
I can't think. I just honestly, I'm thinking like, as far as comedy, at the time, revolutionary. And what was revolutionary was because I mean, he's a great comedian, but what he was doing was not necessarily just revolutionary for comedy. It's revolutionary for the medium. You know, other comedians like Sid Caesar at the time was revolutionary for just doing like brilliant sketches. You know, fucking week after week. But he wasn't experimenting with the form, with the medium.
Right.
Ernie Kovacs, I can't think of anybody else who was doing that.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole package.
Everybody now
He's
is just going back. You know, Conan does some great stuff because I'm absolutely in love with Conan, but he does great stuff. But it's still going back to like some of his old bits on NBC were the Clutch Cargo bits with the lip over the cartoon thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like that's something somebody else had done. It is kind of nostalgic, like you were saying, and that's kind of why it's, you know, fun and interesting.
Well,
and
you know who's the biggest Ernie Kovacs fan?
Who?
And who is like I've read like interviews and things I've found on the internet or like whatever is David Letterman.
Really?
Yeah, he is extremely influenced. He recognizes Kovacs as like the great.
That's good to hear.
So it's, I mean, like he definitely, like I've even read some things that like he even like made contact with Edie Adams before she passed away in 2007 and stuff like that. And, like he apparently like Letterman was extremely influenced. Like I mean, super influenced.
Yeah.
But I think all of them to a certain degree. Maybe not Leno because he sucks. But,
well, yeah. Sure.
No, but that's a joke. But I think like the whole, I think Conan has a pretty. I mean, if you could get Conan in a room and ask him, do you know who Ernie Kovacs is? He'd probably be like, fuck yeah. Because Conan's thing is, like, you know, a lot of that's, like, the surrealist absurdity, too.
Yeah. Oh, clearly.
You know?
Clearly.
All of
his writers have that aesthetic going on.
Yeah, I mean they're proud.
Maybe they're not experimenting, but they're still... Okay, that's one thing to say. He was experimenting because nobody'd done it before. Now people know that it's possible and nobody's doing it, except for people like Conan. They're still using the tools.
Yeah.
It's nothing new.
Yeah, I mean,
necessarily.
And I don't even think it's just late night or TV shows too. I mean, you can. I'm trying to think of some other comedians that are more
experimental,
more surrealist. It's like what
it's
I'm looking
hard
for.
Off the top of my head. I'm not even sure.
I'm trying to think who I like because I don't like anything that's not surreal.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't really give a shit about it, but I recognize that it's kind of groundbreaking. Is Tim and Eric, the Tim and Eric show on Cartoon Network?
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're playing as much as they can with what they've got, which is green screen, which is again awkwardness is their aesthetic for sure.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Like that's the closest thing I can think of. At least it's on TV. But
again, right.
Yeah,
it's like that surrealist comedy aspect.
Sometimes it drives me insane to the level they take it to.
Yeah.
You know, they're pulling people off the streets and having them do comedy bits. It's like, it's intentionally like painful to watch.
Yeah.
And I get it. I do think it's
right.
I can appreciate it. I just can't sit and watch it.
No.
This though, I can. And I don't know why. I don't know what's different about it.
Well, and then maybe it's the nostalgia element too. And this stuff, you know, is pretty. Some of it's pretty tongue in cheek and pretty funny and genius. Sure. Like the music numbers where it's just stuff moving to music is just really cool to me. It's just cool image.
No, it's
good image.
And you know, actually, Sid Caesar did some similar stuff, but again, wasn't playing with a form. It was mostly with like people. It was just a lot of traditional stage type comedy, vaudeville.
Right,
expanded,
vaudeville. Right.
You know, and
well, Sid Caesar's great too. I love Sid Caesar.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah. You can't.
But that is more like theater-based vaudeville.
Right.
Classy.
Yeah. Very classy. Ernie Kovacs was his own fucking thing.
Yeah, he was just on crack.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
Not literally, but
I've
often wondered about the drug issue. By the way.
Yeah.
I just often wonder, and this is just me now, just making shit up entirely.
Go ahead.
But I just wonder if, like, because his thing is kind of plugged into almost like this beatnik.
Yeah. Oh, clearly.
Feel.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wonder if he got stoned a lot or something.
I can't imagine he didn't.
Right, that's my thought on it, but nothing I've ever seen or read has anything, and everything, and you know what that might be too, is that might be the downplay because he is the tragic image because he died in a sudden crazy car accident.
Yeah, because he didn't die of drugs.
Right before he's breaking in the film or in the process of.
Yeah.
But like, so maybe, and people just, Hollywood and media was different then, they didn't even, who cares if you drink a lot?
Sure.
Who cares if you know what pot is even at the time you smoke it. So I've never been able in anything I've read to tell if it's just that was the cultural reaction, like we just don't care, or if the fact is just he was a loon from, birth, But I do notice that his things have kind of like a psychedelic, beatnik, external chemical influence.
Nothing had been reflected on TV like that before.
Yeah, and that's why. And then that would just be an interesting thing that no one will ever know.
Sure.
Because that probably would be the first time that kind of modern culture and experimentation socially. Because that's and the other thing that makes me, because he's a very open-minded person, even though you have questionable characters like, he would imitate Germans and do like the crazy German accents, and like making fun of the whole immigrant mentality. And he would have like Percy Duff tonsils. Yeah. I mean, he's obviously an effeminate character. Right. Like obviously part of the joke is the fact that this guy's obviously gay.
Sure.
Right. But it was never done in like a malicious way.
Right.
So the point is he took. I kind of forget what the point is. Fuck.
What are you talking about socially? That it was...
Oh, that's what I'm saying. So the point is that he was socially... Well, you have a couple of those skits. So you would think that maybe he's a bigot.
Right.
Or maybe that he was like, like homophobic.
Yeah.
Or kind of... But it's hard to resolve like the fact that like you have a character like Percy Duff Tonsils, which is probably offensive in a lot of ways. Sure. Or actually, it's not probably. It is offensive in a lot of ways. But I think... It was more of like an inclusion thing. Yeah. It was kind of just like a lampooning of other characters or stereotypes. Sure. More than making fun of like an ethnicity or a lifestyle. Right. Or like, a sexual orientation. Sure. Because the thing is because a lot of his gags just dealt with accents. Right. Right. So I don't think that those were malicious. Yeah. And on the other hand, you look at him personally. Sure. He was an extremely open-minded person. Yeah. Especially culturally and racially. Yeah. Like, he would... I've read stories about certain Magyar clubs being Hungarian and stuff. And certain clubs that he would go to, especially on the East Coast, in New York, which he was very familiar with. He'd come back with Hollywood people, and there were places that wouldn't allow Jewish people in there. And he literally would go and invite every single Jewish person he knew and go there because they knew that they wouldn't turn him away at the door just to be like you're a bunch of fucking idiots, right? That's awesome. Like he was extremely, and his daughters and his wife, his wife was from Jacksonville and his daughters were exposed to an extremely racist culture down there. Of course. They would come back and they'd be using racial expletives and all these things. I've read about this stuff. And he was like unbelievably adamant about not letting, not even just, correcting that. Sure. But like literally destroying that culture in them, or that any tendency that would have been. So the point is that he obviously was a very racially and socially open dude. Sure. Sure. So the fact is, would he be open to chemical experimentation too? Right. In the mid-50s, probably. Yeah. I mean, have no doubt. This is just a guess.
Yeah, if you're hanging out in radio, you're hanging out with jazz guys.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He's a jazz guy. Yeah, exactly. He has that flavor to him. Mm-hmm. He's very open culturally and all this other stuff.
Strangely, believe it, Chandu Barapur, a Hindu mystic of Bombay, India, has slept for the past 9 years on a spring mattress he bought in Detroit, Michigan. The wife of Paul H. Fletcher, this is titled Greater Love Hath No Man. The wife of Paul H. Fletcher died in 1846. Her husband, Paul, passed away from grief 74 years later. Sad things in here. I'll give you one more quickly because they are so many.
During the war in Korea, Master Sergeant R. Porter Minnick felt something hard strike a cigarette case, which he carried in the breast pocket of his combat uniform. The object was a bullet, which bore the serial number. He read it, 82639473884. Quick as a flash, he reached into his hip pocket, drew forth his wallet, extracted his Army identification card. On it, he read with surprise his Army serial number. It was 406. Right in the heart, those things get me.
Yeah, it's a good point, though, that you say he's got kind of that beat feel to him, because this is the time when all the beat authors were
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why he's plugged in. He's plugged into something culturally that was happening.
That must have resonated with some people. I mean, I don't know, what was he a primetime show, or was it late night?
All kinds of stuff. He did. Yeah. He had some short-lived primetime specials, late night, morning, all over the place.
I just have to think that just the same way stoners sit around and watch late night TV now. I have to think there had to have been
like drunks and stoners. No, definitely. If there were drunks and stoners at the time watching him, they would love it. Absolutely. Because it's just like, dude, you're just wasted and you're watching a cowhead spin around.
Right. Right.
I mean, think about that. Where the hell are you going to see that image, that moving image, anywhere in 1957?
Yeah. Yeah, nowhere.
Like, if that's your lifestyle and you're chilling out and you're very open and you're just experiencing, man. Mm-hmm. And then you turn on Ernie Kovacs.
Yeah.
And he's upside down in a water tank smoking a cigar, but the smoke is milk pouring out of his mouth.
Yeah.
You are officially freaked out.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
there's just to skip back to one other point, we can wrap up soon if you want, but just to skip back, you're talking about how some stuff would be offensive, like Percy Dove tonsils or doing accents, but a lot of people nowadays, because of political correctness and because that's just way too abundant, they look at old stuff. Anytime somebody was doing an accent to be funny, they take that as racially insensitive, when the whole reason to do an accent, for the most, just because you're doing an accent doesn't mean you're racially insensitive or insensitive in any way. You're just trying to reflect something you've heard. Right. Even if it's aesthetically pleasing. To me, it's aesthetically pleasing to do some voices. I like hearing them. I like hearing, like, my voice take on another algorithm. Yeah. To do, honestly, to do an effeminate voice. That's funny. It doesn't mean I find gay people stupid. Doesn't mean I even find gay people funny, but that voice is hilarious. Right. And then
you're mentioning, like, how I never noticed, but it's the same from the dude from Office Space. It's the same voice.
Exactly. Yeah. Percy Dove tonsils.
Which is just funny.
I need to talk to Stephen Root, but Stephen Root is totally doing that as Milton. Yeah. Milton is Percy Dove tonsils, but like you said,
with that little lisp and that weakness. In the voice, and just kind of, the Percy Dove tonsils is more smug.
Yeah, you need to see that. You can listen to this all you want. You need to see him and his glasses. Again, the glasses are the same glasses, by the way, and the kind of weird little wispy mustache. Milton is totally... I just can't believe I never noticed that before.
Percy Dove tonsils.
That's so good. But, like, I don't know, if you go back to that, like you say, Monty Python did a lot of stuff that could be seen as racially insensitive,
exactly.
too. Like that...
exactly.
What's the bit... I want to say it's in Meaning of Life, where there's a big, like... one of them's in a big rubber suit of a really comically African and native, like with big lips and everything. They don't think that's funny. They don't think a black stereotype like that is funny. They did that song, Never Be Rude to an Arab. They know what racism is. They're not stupid people.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's obviously something else underneath, but... Sorry, that's me on a rant, because I hate when people get too sensitive and don't think 2 or 3 times about what they're seeing or hearing.
Right, yeah. Well, and that's one thing I have read about, is that, like, Ernie Kovacs was more, almost there was this vulgarity to, like, what he did because he made fun of gays, and it's like, no, he did.
No.
It's a completely different dynamic.
No, he's reflecting probably a gay guy, but who cares?
Yeah, and that's the other thing of it, too, is that it's not even, like... For me to have, like, an offensive joke, this is actually an interesting topic. Because I had this conversation with my buddy who was in town, who remained nameless. But now that he's the only buddy that's been in town in the last year, so he knows who he is. But we were talking about what makes a joke offensive. And, it was pretty... maybe that's a nice little meditative thought to close on.
Yeah.
But...
To me, it's intent.
I think... reflecting a stereotype is not offensive.
Not inherently, no. Absolutely
I mean, because
not.
The fact is, we're all different types of people and colors and creeds and like having sex with different things. Like, it's cool.
Yep.
But But I think when you make assumptions about an individual's personality or choices,
sure,
or intelligence, I think that's the line. But
of course, yeah, no, absolutely. When there's that,
but playing with the stereotype is kind of,
there's nothing wrong. That's the thing. People they don't separate recognizing differences between from discriminating based on a difference, and that's always been a problem of mine. Like if I didn't recognize differences in other people, I probably wouldn't be able to walk around on my own 2 feet right now. That's something we do when we're infants.
Right.
We recognize difference. We start to recognize the difference, and we get so proud that we can identify something. Hey, look, Mom, that's a school. Yeah, very good. Oh, you just read. We're constantly rewarded for recognizing things, for being what they are. And then why would we not be expected to recognize, an algorithm? Recognize how this person's similar to that person.
Right.
Once you start saying that person's an asshole for being that way, just because another person of that similar, race or creed or whatever a creed is, did something to you. I could be in a soapbox on this all night, Storm. You should stop me.
No, it's okay. Go.
You know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah, no,
right?
Totally.
It's all what you do with it. It's all intent.
It's all intent.
You know.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that 100%. I think there's an effect too.
Sure. Sure. I mean, you can't ignore what using that stereotype is going to do to other people.
Right. And I think because I think there's some fault in individuals that use art or writing or comedy, and they go so outlandish with an offensive statement or stereotype or an offensive comment directed at an individual
for the sake of it.
For the sake of trying to prove the absurdity of it. Right. But at some point, you're just propagating some sort of image.
Yeah.
It's kind of... God, now I'm...
There's a fine line to walk.
There's a fine line to walk.
Especially with comedy, because, people like to think there are no limits, and that's cool if that's what it is, but, yeah. If you do at some point have to be able to find a theme in what you just wrote. There's got to be a reason for doing what you're doing. Purpose. And some people don't. Right. Some people don't. Purpose. They think, if I just keep saying a funny thing, as long as people know I'm joking, quote unquote, it's okay. Right. No, absolutely not. Right. There has to be a theme.
Well, that's what was my point. The word I was looking for was outrageous. Yeah. At some point, it's just how outrageous can it be? Yeah. And what you're doing is you're losing the purpose at that point. Yeah. You're just making the statement to be outrageous. Yeah. And even if you're intentionally not, your intent isn't to promulgate some racial or sexual stereotype. Yeah. The fact that you're doing it just to be outrageous is offensive.
Neither of us are high, by the way, everybody at home. Just to let you know. I'm not. I can't speak for Adam.
No, I'm not.
But, yeah, this is what Ernie Kovacs does to you.
It trips you out.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, watch his videos. Adam, Storm, is there anything you want to leave everybody with?
Nothing. I think that was good.
All right. Watch his videos. You can listen to the clips. I'll put fewer clips in this than I normally do because it's a long episode anyway, but you really need to watch his stuff. It was just an excuse to tell you to discover Ernie Kovacs. So, everybody, thank you very much. Thank you, Adam.
Hey, no problem.
And, Comedy on Vinyl. Everybody have a fantastic week. Bye-bye. Comedy on Vinyl is recorded at Fort Awesome Studios in Burbank, California. Go to comedyonvinyl.com to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Our producer is Mike Worden, and our editor is Jason Klamm. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of Stolen Dress Entertainment. To see what else we're up to, go to stolendress.com and look at our podcasts, our books, our blogs, our videos, and anything else that might strike your fancy. And if stolendress.com is too long for you, you can always go to goo.gl/Y_S_QZ
Father had a pitch down at Mitcham Fair. Got a lot of cannonballs, covered them with air. Roll bowl of pitch, you could hear him cry. Thinking they were coconuts, the people had to try. One big bloke bowled up at them a tree. It was just a Polly, she was holding up the street. Down came the blind, he thought it is a coconut. It's Polly Jane, knocked the bonnet off a broken nut. Out came her brains and the fella just behind. The nummy was a milky one and down came the blind. Down came the blind, he thought it is a coconut. It's Polly Jane, knocked the bonnet off.